I'm going to show you my tips and tricks on pouring resin baits. First off, make sure your resin mold is really clean. No flakes or nothing like that got in there from your last batch when you were taking it apart. I've made that mistake before. You pour a mold and there's a little chunk from the last time you did it, and that messes up the little details in your bait. I do about 7.5% of micro balloons in my total mixture. That's something you really got to figure out for each bait. It's different for every bait. And then I take a lighter and pop those little bubbles you get that come to the top before I mix the bait. Cuts down on the bubbles in the bait. And I just burp it for a few seconds while it's setting up. Get some more of those bubbles out. You can see them come to the surface. Only takes about 30 seconds for that to actually start hardening. And then I think 10 minutes it is for a total cure on it. I use the Alumilite RC3 resin. I've used that for years and really like it. I like to scrape the flashing with the razor blade before I do all my drill holes. Just gives you a clean base to work with. This is a nice little trick I learned. I just have a set aside of these drill bits for just doing this. So I mark the size on the bit so I always know right where to put it. If you don't got the type that's on a table or something like that, if you're using just a drill like me, it's really helpful. Tons of places to get your screws, but I definitely recommend always getting stainless steel. That's the best you can get, and 72 diameter is really good for like a 6-inch bait. Anything bigger than that, you're gonna wanna, I think it's a 92 diameter. But stainless steel is the way to go, and an inch long is on these is what I use. And I've been buying mine from an eBay seller for a long time and never had a problem with them. The best thing I found for myself is using these finesse weights. I think they're also called barrel weights. But that way I can pull it out if I need to very easily and take weight out or add weight if I need to. Instead of pouring it, you don't gotta smell all that lead and stuff. Worry about burning yourself. I just really like doing it this way. Next up is messing with your sink rate. It all depends on how you want it. I mostly do an extra slow sink. So I leave it floating just barely on the top before paint and clear coat. That way you get that extra slow sink. Always get a perfect angle drawing of your original bait that you tested that you like, so you can make sure that every bait comes out exactly that angle so you get the perfect swim on every one. I use the BSI 30-minute epoxy. I've used it for years and it's really forgiving. I don't think I've ever got a bad mix of it. It always works perfect, always hardens really good. I mix a little bit of micro balloons in it just as filler. A great tip is to wet your finger, and when that starts to dry, you can mold it and get a good shape out of it so it isn't big globs hanging over the sides or anything like that, but just wet your finger so it doesn't stick to it. Use Steel Stick by JB Weld to fill in all the little tiny holes you get on the bait. I start off with the Dremel to get the majority of that epoxied back down to the shape of the bait. Make sure you got a shop vac, and I also got a fan blowing out the window too, so you're blowing that away from you, and keep a mask and goggles on. Then I go back and do the fine sanding with a piece of 80 grit sandpaper. Next up is swim testing. Gotta swim test every batch just in case there's that 1 out of 20 baits that just ain't swimming right for some reason. You can go back and fix it before you paint it. That's pretty much it. This bait's ready for paint. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. There'll be a lot more videos to come.